Welcome to the overview of the reporting year 2027 Payment Error Rate Measurement, also known as PERM, cycle timeline. This timeline includes key activities and deadlines that you need to be aware of for the RY 2027 PERM cycle. CMS uses a 17 to 18 state, district, or territory, hereafter referred to as state, rotation for PERM. Each state is reviewed once every 3 years, with a new cycle starting annually each spring. The PERM cycle can be broken down into 3 phases across a total of 36 months. These phases are pre-cycle, review, and cycle closeout. The pre-cycle phase begins in spring of year 1 and runs through March of year 2. The review phase begins in March or April of year 2 and runs through April of year 3. The cycle closeout phase begins after reviews are complete and runs from May through November of year 3. While none of the activities in the pre-cycle phase require State Medicaid Director involvement, a few activities within the review and cycle closeout phases do require State Medicaid Director participation. These activities are the mid-cycle report, improper payment rates, and cap development, which we will mention again later. Unless otherwise noted, the majority of activities included in this timeline only require state PERM points of contact and other state staff involvement. The pre-cycle phase starts with Part 1 of the cycle kickoff call, which occurs in April of year 1. During this call, the PERM statistical contractor, also known as the SC, provides states an overview of the PERM program, data submission, sampling, improper payment rate reporting, next steps with the SC, and PERM resources. Part 2 of the cycle kickoff call occurs in September of year 1. During this call, the PERM eligibility review contractor, also known as the ERC, provides states with a PERM overview, roles and responsibilities, differences between RYs, RY 2027 process details, and next steps with the ERC. Following the kickoff calls, the PERM contractors work with states to obtain system access. States begin granting system access to the PERM contractors as soon as September of year 1, but ideally no later than February of year 2. It is important to maintain this timeline to ensure PERM case reviews are conducted in a timely manner. Please note that CMS may elevate issues to the State Medicaid Director if timely access is not provided from the state PERM points of contact. As we transition from pre-cycle to the review phase, states submit universe data to the SC between October of year 1 and February of year 2. Then between February and October of year 2, states receive samples from the SC. During the review phase, the ERC conducts eligibility reviews. In December of year 2, State Medicaid Directors receive a mid-cycle report that informs them of the cycle progress specifically within their state. In April of year 3, the cycle cutoff occurs. This means that 100% of the initial case reviews are completed and formally marks the completion of the case review phase. From May through November of year 3, the cycle closeout occurs. Within this time frame, the ERC collects the completed data with review results, conducts analyses, and prepares the cycle summary reports, which include the national and state payment error rates and trends associated with the cycle. In November of year 3, State Medicaid Directors will see and review the published improper payment rates. In December of year 3 through February of year 4, State Medicaid Directors are involved in Corrective Action Plan, or CAP, development. In collaboration with CMS and the states, the pre-cycle phase includes all activities that must be conducted by the ERC and SC to plan for case reviews. The pre-cycle phase spans from spring of year 1 through March of year 2. While the activities in the pre-cycle phase only require state PERM points of contact and other state staff involvement, please note that State Medicaid Director involvement may be required if system access issues arise and cannot be resolved between CMS and the state PERM contact. The pre-cycle phase starts with Part 1 of the cycle kickoff call for the state PERM points of contact. This call occurs in April of year 1. Then in June of year 1, states attend intake meetings hosted by the SC. The state also determines whether it will submit data via PERM Plus or the routine PERM process. In September of year 1, Part 2 of the cycle kickoff call occurs. From September through December of year 1, states send the ERC all necessary system access forms and requirements. States identify any required data usage agreements, or DUAs, business associate agreements, or BAAs, or other agreements. From September through November of year 1, states execute the data sharing agreement, for example, DUA, BAA, etc., with the ERC. Then from September of year 1 through January of year 2, states grant system access to the ERC. In October of year 1, states also submit Quarter 1 PERM universe data to the SC. From November through December of year 1, states attend intake meetings hosted by the ERC to review pre-cycle documents. In December of year 1, states begin to participate in biweekly check-ins hosted by the ERC. From February through March of year 2, states attend orientation on the functionality of the State Medicaid Error Rate Finding System, also known as SMERF. Following the completion of the pre-cycle activities, the ERC will initiate the review phase of the PERM eligibility cycle. It is likely that this phase will begin simultaneously with the later pre-cycle activities, as the ERC will review upon receiving quarterly samples. The review phase includes collecting background and documentation on the sampled claims, conducting the case reviews, facilitating the difference resolution and appeals process as applicable, and reporting the findings to the states. In January of year 2, states submit Quarter 2 PERM universe data to the SC. The review phase then spans from February of year 2 through April of year 3. One activity within this phase, receiving the mid-cycle report, requires State Medicaid Director involvement. The remaining activities only require state PERM points of contact and other state staff involvement. Please note that CMS may elevate issues to the State Medicaid Director if timely responses are not received from state PERM points of contact. Of the numerous activities occurring at various points within this phase, one that's essential throughout the review cycle is providing and maintaining system access to the ERC. The following 3 activities occur from March of year 2 through April of year 3. 1. States receive eligibility errors via the Sampling Unit Disposition Reports, also known as SUD reports, from SMERF. 2. States review and respond to additional documentation requests, also known as ADRs. And 3. States request difference resolutions, or DRs, and appeals, and respond to the ERC's questions as needed. From January through December of year 2, states are expected to respond to the SC's questions about samples and details. In February of year 2, states begin receiving samples from the SC. In April of year 2, states submit Quarter 3 PERM universe data to the SC. In July of year 2, states submit Quarter 4 PERM universe data to the SC. In December of year 2, State Medicaid Directors receive the mid-cycle report, which informs them of the cycle progress specifically within their state. In April of year 3, the cycle cutoff occurs. The final phase of the PERM program cycle focuses on completing payment error rate calculations, reporting findings, and assisting states with the development of their cap. The cycle closeout phase spans from May of year 3 through November of year 3. Within this phase, some activities require state Medicaid director involvement. Some only require the state PERM points of contact and other state staff involvement, and one activity only requires CMS involvement and not the state Medicaid director nor the state. In May of year 3, states submit remaining documentation and disputes within allowable timeframes through August of year 3. This activity occurs for claims that did not have time to go through the full PERM process before the cycle cutoff date, and only requires the state PERM point of contact and other state staff involvement. Also, in May of year 3, CMS completes quality checks and prepares data for reporting. This activity does not require involvement from the state Medicaid director or other state staff. In November of year 3, the three following activities require state Medicaid director involvement. 1. State Medicaid directors review CMS published error rates in the annual HHS Agency Financial Report, also known as the AFR. 2. State Medicaid directors receive the Final Errors for Recovery, or FEFR, report. And 3. State Medicaid directors complete the state cap and raise any questions related to error findings to CMS. Also in November of year 3, states receive supplemental documents including cycle summary reports, or CSRs, state error rate notifications, and cap for both Medicaid and CHIP. This activity only requires the state PERM points of contact and other state staff involvement. This concludes the PERM cycle timeline overview. Please direct any questions to your CMS PERM liaison.